That's perfect.
Tuesdays I was doing 2 meetings a day over the 7 a.m.
Did he fix it? What's wrong, Joe?
Did Stevie respond to your text?
Huh?
Stevie's not responding.
No, did you text him for me?
Get on the phone.
Say share the meeting with Chris, please. Say he's in here. All right, we're on.
Hello.
Hi.
He's on. I'm on. He did it.
I don't really need
You
the
good?
microphone.
You good?
But
Yeah.
It's not for you,
Thank
it's, we can hear you in the Facebook.
yeah.
Realm.
I feel like they'd still be able to hear me.
No, not
No?
really, not.
Okay.
We want to hear your crispy, clear voice.
Yes. Crispy. No mumbling.
Lord. I know that was good. Yeah, it's perfect. Perfect.
Let me get my prompt up. Yes. It's a step series right now.
Is he here?
So we'll see.
More will be revealed.
Yes,
Can you hear?
exactly. That's like my motto. all
Hey,
the
can you
time.
guys hear?
Want to start with the chips?
Yeah, right?
We'll just get Jerry up there.
I can't see. I don't know if they can hear.
Come on, Jerry.
We just talked
Paul,
about
can you
chefs,
hear,
and
Paul?
Who walks in? Lori!
Woo!
Lori's here.
Hey, Zoomers.
Vinny, can you hear?
Oh, home.
They love it.
Okay. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear. All right, you're good to go.
How are we on Facebook Live? We're good? Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the Spread the Word group. My name is Ashley, and I'm an alcoholic.
Ashley.
We ask that you please put away your cell phones and help us to open this meeting by bowing your head and observing a moment of silence, followed by the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity
to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
This is the definition of Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics achieve sobriety. In the Spread the Word group, we respect and share the spiritual principles behind the 12 steps together. Please repeat after me. 1, honesty.
Honesty.
2, hope.
Hope.
3, faith.
Faith.
4, courage.
Courage.
5, integrity.
Integrity.
6, willingness.
Willingness.
7, humility.
Humility.
8, brotherly love.
Brotherly love.
9, self-discipline.
Self-discipline,
10, perseverance.
perseverance,
11, spirituality.
spirituality,
12, service.
service.
Is there anyone here for their very first AA meeting? Anyone new to this meeting or anyone just coming back? Please introduce yourself so that we can get to know you.
Josh, I got like 6 days clean. I've been here since last Friday.
Josh, welcome.
Hi, Josh. Glad to have you here. Anyone on Facebook Live? Oh, dang. I'll have to yell at her later. Okay, well, welcome everyone. I have asked Gina to read more about alcoholism.
Most of us have been unwilling to admit we are real alcoholics. No person likes to think he is bodily and mentally different from his fellows. Therefore, it is not surprising that our drinking careers have been characterized by countless vain attempts to prove we could drink like other people. The idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his drinking is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker. The persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people or presently may be has to be smashed. We alcoholics are men and women who have lost the ability to control our drinking. We know that no real alcoholic ever recovers control. All of us felt at times that we were regaining control, but such intervals, usually brief, were inevitably followed by still less control, which led in time to pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. We are convinced to a man that alcoholics of our type are in the grip of a progressive illness. Over any considerable period, we get worse, never better. We are like men who have lost their legs, they never grow new ones. Neither does there appear to be any kind of treatment which will make alcoholics of our kind like other men. We have tried every imaginable remedy. In some instances, there has been brief recovery, followed always by a still worse relapse. Physicians who are familiar with alcoholism agree there is no such thing as making a normal drinker out of an alcoholic. Science may one day accomplish this,
But it hasn't done so yet.
Okay, and I've asked Josh to read how it works.
Right, Josh. Alright, so,
Yeah, I'll show you. We're gonna start here, read all the way through, so let's stop.
alright. It's how it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Usually men and women who are constantly incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born this way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way that what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. I'm sorry.
Sorry, brother.
At some of this, we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all our earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and as a result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, and powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with the complete abandonment. Here are the steps we took in which are suggested as a program of recovery. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. 3, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, we admitted to God, ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. We are entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and made willing to make amends to them all. We made direct amends to such 9, we make direct amends to such people whoever possible, except when to do so should hinder them or others. 10, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying for His knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, had a spiritual awakening. The result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What an order, I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything but perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to this progress. We exclaim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostics, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholics and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have ever relieved our alcoholism. And C, God could and would if He sought.
Check him out.
Thank you so much, that was great. And may I please have a secretary's report now?
Hi, my name is Tommy. I'm an alcoholic.
Tommy.
I'm also your alcoholic secretary. This is the Spread the Word group. We meet every Thursday at 8:30, usually at the 12-step house, but due to the circumstances, we've been meeting at 8 o'clock at JC's, so thank you, JC's. We are open for membership. With all of our members, please raise your hand and keep your hand raised. If you'd like to join the group, you can see me or anybody else with their hand raised. Our business meeting is held on the last Thursday of every month, so please stay and get involved, as there is no greater reward than serving others. Remember, nothing ensures permanent sobriety so much as working with another alcoholic. We are foregoing the passing of the baskets due to the circumstances, but we appreciate the support of our group. We appreciate everybody here, everybody watching. Celebrants. Is anybody here celebrating this month that would like to be acknowledged or celebrate with us? My man right here. Anthony, 1 year, right? I forgot him like 2 weeks in a row. He was on there. So we showed up in person tonight. Anybody else?
Franklin has a year.
Franklin, 1 year.
Mario has a year today.
Mario?
Mario.
Wow. Congratulations. Big things, big things. I think Chevelle got 8 years, right? Something like that.
Tammy Joe?
Same, that was last month.
That was last one?
Yeah.
But she got 9 years nonetheless.
Yeah. And I'm gonna celebrate 3 years on the 29th.
Me too.
Yeah, 29th. We got the
Yes,
same
sir.
day, right? Are there any announcements for the good of AA? Alright, thank you for letting me be of service.
Okay, so as usual, I'm so happy to be here tonight and be with you guys in person and be spreading the word. We've had a great last few meetings, gone over step 1 through 3, and now tonight our friend Robert is going to take us through step 4, and I'm looking forward to it. So please give a warm welcome to Robert.
You got it.
Okay, how you doing? I'm Robert, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Robert.
My date is the 18th of December of 2007, and for that I'm truly grateful. My home group is the Harbor Group of Hollywood, which meets Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock. Saturdays at 7:30, although we currently meet on Zoom. So if you want more information, get with me after the meeting. Okay, so listen, we're going to talk about 4, but before we do, I'm going to go back really quickly and just kind of talk about how we got to 4, right? Because it's kind of hard to listen. The steps don't work individually. They're free-flowing. So, it was explained to me when I first got sober, the first attempt at not drinking at 26 years old, I wanted to go 1 through 9, right? Because I wanted to admit I was an alcoholic, my life was in the shit, and I was going to call everyone and tell them I was sorry. That's what I wanted to do, And it's been explained to me that deal is just because I want to feel relief. That's got nothing to do with step 9. That's just because I'm an alcoholic and I don't want to be uncomfortable at all for 5 minutes. You see what I mean? So when you drink your whole life, like from 12 to 38 years old, and you're drunk most of every waking hour except maybe the first hour and a half maybe of the day to get a couple of things done, but the rest of the time you're pretty inebriated, then when you get sober, experiencing things like emotions is challenging, right? Because I hadn't had a lot of practice in dealing with any emotions except anger and happiness. And even those were what we would call restricted affect. I didn't have a full rainbow of feelings. And when most people are growing up through their emotional development, they learn how to grow up. How to be a man. How to do shit that you don't want to do and do it anyway. But I'm an alcoholic, so I didn't do that stuff. I only did stuff if I felt like doing it. Like if you guys laugh at the next things, I'll know I'm in the right place. So for example, if I get a bill that would say final notice, I'd be like, good, I won't get any more of these. Because I'm not paying the fuck. Alcohol's expensive. I had to budget it out, you know what I mean? To me, it made sense to not pay tolls for 15 years. It made sense to have a decent job and be making decent money and steal electricity and cable. That made sense to me. So, I see heads nodding out there. I think I'm in the right place, probably. But that's what the whole thing is about, is growing up. So in step 1, I admit that I'm powerless over alcohol, right? And that my life's unmanageable. That's easy. A child could do that. Although I've heard it said, well, you have to identify the problem. That's great. That's some nice therapy shit. But in AA, step 1, in and of itself and by itself, if you don't do anything else, is pretty meaningless, to be honest with you. Because if all you're doing is admitting that you're an alcoholic and that your life's unmanageable, that's wonderful, but what are you going to do next? So if you don't go through the rest of the steps, step 1 has very little power. Because I know plenty of people that work that step and they get drunk the next day, the next week, the next month, the next year, because they don't go through the whole thing. The reason we go through the whole thing is so that we can get a spiritual experience, which is the only way we can stop drinking. It was explained to me that I couldn't stop drinking, and listen, I never stopped drinking. I tried, but I was unable to do that until I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, worked the steps, and the obsession to drink was removed. I didn't quit on my own. It was a byproduct of this stuff. So anything I say, listen, you don't have to like me or my haircut or my black mask or my stance or, I don't know, whatever it is about me you may not like, or the fact that I might drop an F-bomb here and there, and I might do that. But if I read, and you don't have to like that stuff, but if I read it out of the book, it's our program. And then if you don't like that, what you have a problem with is not me. You have a problem with the program. Now, if I say something and you get pissed off, you know what it says in step 10, right? It says it is a spiritual axiom that every time we're disturbed, no matter what the cause, there's something wrong with us. So if you get pissed off about something I do, it's got nothing to do with me. Unfortunately, that same rule applies to me. So when I get pissed off at something you do, it's got nothing to do with you. It has to do with my spiritual status. You see what I'm saying? And my spiritual status, I don't know about what you have. I just know about what I have. When I don't go to enough meetings and I don't take every sponsee phone call and I don't speak every time I'm asked and I don't do all that stuff, I get shitty quick. I don't know about you guys. And usually it's some sap at the red light who didn't press the gas the minute the light turned green. And if he doesn't, I'm laying on the horn. That's like a check of my spiritual status. You see what I'm saying? If I'm in a good place, I'll let it, you let it simmer for a couple of seconds, whatever. But if I'm in a bad space, man, I'm laying it on, and I'm leaving it there, and giving them the veins and feeling stupid about it later. But listen, I'm an alcoholic. I don't slide down rainbows and eat red unicorn meat, you know what I mean? I chop wood and carry water. That's what I do. I'm 12 years sober, and I don't propose to have any answers. There are no gurus in AA. There are no experts in AA. There are just other alcoholics whose turn it is to speak from the podium, and that's all I am. There is nothing special about me or about my story. And this thing is open to everybody, no matter where you are, whether you have a day or a week or a month or 5 years or whatever you have. This thing's open for everybody. If you want it, you just have to do the work. If you do the work, you get results. If you don't, you're going to fail miserably. So, step 1 says, we admitted we're powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become unmanageable. Okay, cool. Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Well, I don't know about you guys, but my mom was Jewish, my dad was Catholic. I was very confused about God. I spent most of my adult life smoking pot and dropping acid and talking about why religion was wrong and how they've been killing people in the name of God for thousands of years and all that horse shit. So I didn't have any real connection to God or any of that my whole life until I came into Alcoholics Anonymous. And the way that step 2 laid out for me personally wasn't that I levitated in my living room or, saw a burning bush or Moses in the sky or Poseidon in the sea or any of that shit. What happened was I just came to lots of meetings and I was praying twice and there was a shift in me and I felt different and then I knew different. That's my experience with this stuff. Now, what sanity meant to me then was like, I don't know, not drinking and assaulting people and going to jail every other weekend. That's what insanity looked like then. Now insanity looks different. Thank God I don't do that stuff because that part is removed quickly. It's just other stuff like I might think of something that happened and like perseverate about that for 3 days, which is to say to obsess about it. One little thing, a sentence that one person said to me a week ago will just echo and go back and forth all around my freaking head. And what I've realized is that that's called, listen up, pay attention, it's called alcoholism. That's what that's called. You know that the very nature of alcoholics is that we're obsessive. So that's how the whole thing works, right? I want to stop, I'm not going to drink, but then I obsess about drinking and I can't stop, and then I engage in a compulsive behavior and I drink. That's the cycle of alcoholism. So when I remove the alcohol and I get sober, insanity today looks like a splinter in my mind about something I can't get out of my head. You ever do that? Like if something comes in a package for Amazon, like the lamp I told you about, I was so happy about this lamp. I was really excited. It looked so cool on eBay, and I was like, man, it's really inexpensive. I was so happy. And I tracked it and all that, I just moved, so I've been getting different packages, get excited about coffee and this and that. So I was so excited, and I'm at work and it says, it arrived. I'm like, great. I get home and open, it's like 1,000 fucking pieces, man. It's like a puzzle. You know what I mean? And I can't hammer a nail to save my life straight. So it's still sitting in the closet. And I got really upset. I wanted to call somebody and write somebody and do something. And, and then I just realized, Rob, you're such an alcoholic. This is such a minor, stupid thing. But that's all it takes. That's all it takes for me. In step 3, I made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood him. Now, I don't get into the debates about what that is. I have sponsees call me and say things like, well, how do I know what God's will is? I have no flipping idea. I don't really, I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't know what God's will is, but I have a better idea of what it isn't. It probably isn't for me to be a selfish, self-centered, alcoholic, drug addict who will step on you, your mother, and everybody else to get what I want. It's probably not that. I don't think it's that. I don't think when I was born that was my purpose and function in life. But what I've learned in Alcoholics Anonymous is that it's probably to come to meetings and be of service and help other people, speak when I'm asked, sponsor as many guys as ask me, do whatever I can to give something back that I'm never going to be able to repay because I've been granted the gift of recovery. Aside from that, I have no idea what God's will is. And anybody that tells you that they know exactly what God's will is probably delusional. Our big book says that. It says be very careful about going about spiritual matters on your own. Because your head will tell you all kinds of shit to justify some bullshit that you think is God's will. Like, well, I need to move to China to be with that girl because God told me so. Yeah, good luck. We'll see you in a year when you come back and relapse, which I've seen. That same story. No shit, I'm not lying. Or they say, well, God said it's okay to steal that money because I was stealing it from bad people. It doesn't work that way. You can't make it, listen, that's alcoholic rationalization is what that is. That's got nothing to do with God's will. I don't know what God's will is. I don't think any man of the earth knows exactly what that is. I don't anyway. For me, it's to come to Alcoholics Anonymous and fall in line with the footsteps of all the guys that came before me to do what they do to carry the message of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's what I know. So then we get to 4. And in 4 it says, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I had never done that before. So I had no idea what it was. Now, in the book, you know, listen, you know they wrote all this stuff down, right? In these 2 books. So you don't have to make shit up. Well, I'm just saying because I'll get a sponsee that'll come with a 4-step that's like a long life story about how the world wronged him. Listen, I'm not kidding. About how he could have been a contender and if he had just had the right parents. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Did you not read the book? It's laid out clearly in the book what we're supposed to do. You know that victims don't recover, right? You know that if you come in here and play victim in Alcoholics Anonymous, you're going to drink. You're going to fail. Because being a victim is being selfish. That's all you're being. I'm not saying there aren't victims, and I'm not saying there aren't circumstances which warrant outside help. There absolutely are. But in here, that's not what we do. We don't do that in Alcoholics Anonymous. You don't come up here and say, you know, when I was 4, I was abused sexually by my uncle and so on and so forth. You know what that is, right? That's attention-seeking stuff is what that is. You save that stuff for your sponsor, whatever that is. You don't do that from up here. That's not Alcoholics Anonymous. That's something else, but it's not AA. AA says this. We're going to make 3 lists. So it was laid out to me this way. So you're going to make a resentment list? I was like, great. That should be simple. I'm just going to make a shit list of everybody I can't stand in this world. It was a long list, right? People, institutions, and principals with whom we had resentment. Man, I was going to go to fucking town. You know, the police departments, the IRS, you know, the educational system, the court system. Man, I had pages. It was great. Right up until they told me I needed to write down the cause. And beside that, I needed to write what it affected in me. So wait a minute. So you're telling me that all this shit list of stuff I have has nothing to do with me? I mean, it has nothing to do with them? It has to do with me? Yes, that's what we're saying. So you're saying I'm all screwed up and pissed off about this stuff, but it's got nothing to do with them. Yes. And that's why you drink, Robert. Because you're all pissed. Because see, if you get a normal guy and an alcoholic in the same room, and Pavoni over here looks at him and says something, the normal guy might not give a shit. But the alcoholic's going to get all bent out of shape. How dare he say it? You ever do that? Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. When I was getting sober, I must have had about 3 or 4 months, there was this guy I had been seeing at the Little River. He didn't say hi to me one day. So you know what I said, right? Who the fuck does he think he is not saying hi to me? Da-da-da-da-da-da-da, right? I did all that. Next day I saw him, he didn't say anything again. I was like, who does this guy think he is, man? How dare he? Doesn't he know who I am? Meanwhile, I got 4 months and I'm at Little River. I'm a nobody. I'm an alcoholic scraping around, but I think I'm something. You know, alcoholics are the only people that'll be like in the shit house and walk into a room and be arrogant. You know, we're the only people that'll do that, right? Like normal people when they're in the shit house, they're humble and quiet. Not us. We're like in the toilet and trying to like call the shots. All right, you're going to do this and you're going to do, you know, negotiating. Right, wanting to sponsor your sponsor and rewrite the big book and tell the therapist and the IOP program and the halfway house how to run their program, that you could do it better. Meanwhile, you've got like a week sober, maybe, you know, whatever that is. That's hubris. That's alcoholism is what that is. That shit'll get you drunk. It'll kill you. And the thing is that's how it looks early in the game, but it manifests differently once you've got some years, you see? It sneaks up on you. It's real sneaky. That's why you have to stay right size. So we make this resentment list and we fill that deal out. We look at our part in it. Then in the second list, we make a fears list. Oh, I know. This crowd looks a cut above. I'm sure none of you have any fears, you know. You ever sponsor guys like that? I'm not afraid of anything. Yes, you are. Don't freaking lie to me. Yeah, and they go like that. You know, yes, you are, liar. Everybody's a tough guy, right? Everybody's a tough guy until you ram it down there and, you know, really give it to them. And then you find out, right? Everybody has fears, ladies and gentlemen. It's a normal function. You know the 4 F's, right? You've got feed, fight, flee, and the other F, right? Well, it's all in there. Everyone knows what the other F is, right? I'm not going to say it out loud. Okay, the 4th F. Those are basic functions that come from the primitive part of your brain. That's where fear comes from. It is a technique designed to help you survive. Like in the old days, it was if you saw a tiger, you'd get scared and run, follow? Now, if you're, I don't know, here on Sheridan, where people have actually been killed, you get scared if there's cars coming, so you stop. That's what fear is for. That's what it's designed to do. But alcoholics, we have what's called irrational and exaggerated fear. meaning fear that's not based in reality, meaning fear that far supersedes its intended purpose, meaning fear that makes you want to like drink all the time. Because when you live in fear, you're nervous all the time. So I don't know about you guys, but there was nothing better for me for that than like 18 rum and cokes. I feel a lot better. I could relax, you know? And nothing quite worked as well as that and like 2 8-balls. And that's where I like to live. I'm just telling you how I lived. The problem is that eventually it stops working, so now I'm high and drunk, and I'm still full of, you know, all this negative shit, and it stopped working. So I tried to stop on my own, and I couldn't. I ended up in Alcoholics Anonymous again for the 4th time. So we have to write down our fears. The last thing we do, which gets a lot of controversy around here, is a sexual inventory. Everybody gets all bent out of shape about this. And by the way, why, if you're going to do a 4-step, would you not do it out of our basic text? You know, this is our basic text, right? You know that this is where the 4-step is written down. So why would you go do some extra happy horseshit out of another book? I don't understand that. It's right here in black and white. Simple instructions. So when you start going to outside books and you start taking things out of this book or putting things into this book, it's like baking a chocolate cake. If this gentleman here, I don't bake, but if I did, and he told me how to bake a chocolate cake, and he said, so much sugar, so much flour, a pinch of salt and chocolate and all this stuff, and I just did whatever I wanted to, I'll get something, but it isn't going to be a chocolate cake. So if you want what's promised in the book, then you have to follow the instructions in the book. You don't get to like read the promises, but then do whatever you want and say, how come it didn't work out for me? Because they're all laid out very clearly in this book. Now, since the sexual inventory, I didn't bring my glasses, so I'm not going to be able to read that well, but I'm going to do my best because I think this one absolutely warrants some reading. Because, you know, I've heard it said, people say things like, well, you know, my sponsor told me to stay out of a relationship for a year. That's great. Show me in the book. What if you're an asshole at a year in a day? Then it's okay to be in a relationship? How does that work? What if you're a selfish woman at 2 years? Then it's okay? How does that work? I just want to know how that works. It's probably it might be a good suggestion. It might not be. There's a lot of well-intended things that are said around Alcoholics Anonymous that have nothing to do with Alcoholics Anonymous. You know that, right? You know that if someone says there's just one thing you need to change, that's everything. And the next day they say, don't make any major changes for the first year, then which one is it? Because none of that shit is AA. I made all kinds of changes in the first year, and I'm here to tell you 12 years later, it all worked out because I followed these instructions. It all worked out. Here it says, you know I love to piss you off and get controversial, right? It'll get your attention. I don't care anything it takes, and believe me, I really don't care. Here's what it says. It says, we don't want to be the arbiter of anyone's sexual conduct. What does that mean? That means that sponsors shouldn't tell you what to do in relationships. If your sponsor is telling you what to do in a relationship, go and read this line to them on page 69. We do not want to be the arbiter of anyone's sexual conduct. I don't know about you guys, but when my sponsees ask me, I tell them the truth. I'm like, listen, if you saw my sexual history, you would not ask me. I can assure you. I mean, you know, who the hell is anybody in AA to give other people advice about sexual relationships? Really? What are you, Dr. Joyce Brothers? What are you, a specialist? Get the hell out of here. It says right here, don't do it. All right. We reviewed, but this is what it does say to do. It says, we reviewed our conduct over the years past. Where had we been selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate? Who did we hurt? So basically, when I did this, they said, write down every girl you ever had sex with. Great. Okay, lovely. Lovely. This is just horrible. Where had we been selfish, dishonest, inconsiderate? Whom did we hurt? Did we unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? Where were we at fault? That was every relationship I had until I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, basically. Then it says, we got this down on paper and looked at it. So what do you get down on paper? Do you get down do you write down like a Judy Blume book and a long detailed example of a bunch of sexual escapades? No, you don't. You do this. You write down where you've been shitty to other people as it relates to sex. You know, like when you use people for sex or use sex as leverage over them or all the other wonderful things that we in Alcoholics Anonymous typically as a general rule do. Because when you're selfish and self-centered, how could you do anything else? Can you love somebody else if you're selfish and self-centered? No. I mean, that's okay if you're 8 years old, right? All 8-year-olds are selfish and self-centered. They think everything's about them, but when you're 25, it's not okay anymore. Or 35 or 45. It's not funny anymore, you know what I mean? Then it says this. In this way, we try to shape a sane and sound ideal for our future sex life. We subjected each relationship to this test. Was it selfish or not? We asked God to mold our ideals and help us live up to them. We remembered that our sex powers were God-given and neither to be used lightly, selfishly, or to be despised or loathed. So what that means is, you write down where you've been an asshole or an unpleasant woman, and then you don't do it anymore. I know, shocking, right? I was confused about this too. And then you ask God to help you be a better man or woman in a relationship. And as you do that, if you are really doing that, in chopping wood and carrying water, and making mistakes along the way, of course, but not repeating them and not purposefully and willfully hurting people, then you will become a better partner over time as God sees fit through the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, as I've just read it to you out of the book. Not my opinion, that's what our book says. That's step 4. Resentment list, fears list, and a sexual inventory. Now you might say, well, is that it, Rob? Is that all we're going to talk about in 4? No, because there's a few other things that I think are important for you to hear that come out of the other book that we should refer to in Alcoholics Anonymous, called The 12 and 12. You know, I've been to meetings where they don't recognize this book because they get into some happy horse shit about, well, Bill was depressed and taking LSD when he wrote it. Who cares? Who cares? I literally had an old timer come up to me and say that. And you guys don't know me, but I can be a little edgy. So the guy came up and he said that, and I looked him right in the eye and I said, I don't give a fuck. I don't care that Bill Wilson was on acid when he wrote it. So what? It's the 12 and 12. It was approved by thousands of alcoholics and is published as our 12 steps and 12 traditions. I don't get to take parts out of the book and use only the books I like in AA and expect to get what AA promises me. I don't get to do that. Nor should I come in here and talk to you about anything other than, I know, wait, hold on, AA. I know, right? Like, I shouldn't come in here and talk to you about Louise Hale, you can heal your life. Or I put Post-its on my car and say, be a better guy, and that's how I work on my character defects. That's all horseshit. That's fine. If you like that stuff, that's great. Nothing wrong with that. It's just not AA. And when guys talk to me like that, I say that's horseshit. Or when they call me and say I'm working on myself. What the hell does that mean? I have no idea what that means. Jerry, if I could work on myself, I wouldn't come to Alcoholics Anonymous. I would sit home and work on myself, and then I'd be watching reruns of, like, Law and Order right now. I wouldn't be in here. But I have to be in here to do that stuff. I have to be from the podium and do service, or sit in a meeting quietly, or sponsor guys, or do that stuff. And then the byproduct of that is I get better. I don't know how to work on myself. I don't know what that means. I have no clue what that means. I really don't. So the 12 and 12 says a couple of other things here that I think are important to read. And it's just talking about character defects and how they manifest. And there are some important points, especially for all you, I'm going to do my best because I don't have my glasses and I'm an old man, but I'm going to do my best, especially for all you relationship folks out there that think that the relationship is the answer to all your problems today. But I can assure you that it's not. But it's from our twisted relations with family, friends, and society at large that many of us have suffered the most. We've been especially stupid and stubborn about them. By the way, when he's talking about this stuff, he's not talking about while you're drinking. No one likes that. He's talking about anytime. You can be this way when you're drinking, and you can be this way sober. I know. I was shocked too. The primary fact is that we fail to recognize our total inability to form a true partnership with another human being. Our egomania digs two disastrous pitfalls. Either we insist upon dominating the people we know, or relying on them far too much. If we lean heavily on people, they will sooner or later fail us, for they are human too, and cannot possibly meet our incessant demands. I'm sure you alcoholics know nothing about incessant demands, right? Like when you just drive the saint out of somebody. You know what I mean? Like, they're so nice in the beginning, but you beat them up and you take from them and take from them and take from them. Finally, like, dude, just get out. I just don't have anything left to give you. Because alcoholics, we're like the rapacious creditor, you know what I mean? We're like leeches. We'll just take from them until they're done and then go to the next person. Or we'll try to control them. Hey, you do what I say, the way I say it, and this way, and yes, sir. And if they don't do that, well, then, hey, I can't have this. Well, that's all sickness. That's craziness. That's not what a relationship's supposed to be about, is it? Let's see. Then it says this. In this way, it says, if we lean too heavily on people, they will sooner or later fail us, for they are human too and cannot possibly meet our incessant demands. In this way, our insecurity grows and festers. I'm sure no one knows about insecurity in relationships in here, right? When we habitually try to manipulate other people to our own willful desires, they revolt. Can you imagine? I try to manipulate people and they don't want to go along with it. What the hell? I can't believe this girl. She's ridiculous. She doesn't want to do exactly what I say. In this way, our insecurity grows and festers. When we habitually try to manipulate others to our own willful desires, they revolt and resist us heavily. Then we develop hurt feelings and a sense of persecution. How dare she do that to me, or he do that to me, and a desire to retaliate. As we redouble our efforts at control and continue to fail, our suffering becomes acute and constant. We have not once sought to be one in a family, a friend amongst friends, or to be a worker amongst workers. So what it's saying is that basically when you're disconnected and selfish and self-centered, and you're not connected to yourself, you're not connected to God, you're not connected to other people, how could you possibly make a good partner? It doesn't say stay out of a relationship for a year. See? Because maybe you're okay at 6 months and maybe it takes you 5 years to be okay. I don't know what that looks like. It's different for everybody. But it's giving you the blueprint and telling you what the problems are. And I read the answers a little bit before, a couple of other tidbits. It says this: the most common symptom of emotional insecurity are, pay attention, I'm sure you've never had any of these. The most common symptom of emotional security are worry, anger, self-pity, and depression. I don't know about you, but that describes, like every sober breath I drew before I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, why I drank. That when you feel like that every waking hour, you just want to be drunk all the time. And then I'd feel okay for a while. Then I came to AA and had to put the alcohol down and had to go through the steps to work through that stuff, or have God remove it, I should say. Then it says a couple of other things that I think are important. Alcoholics especially should be able to see that their instincts run wild in themselves are the underlying cause for their destructive drinking. So the reason I drank, according to our literature, is because of my character defects. That's why I drank the way I did. So if I wrote down all my character defects, I could see very clearly this is why I drank. Because when you're psychotic and have rage and all the other fun-filled stuff that came with my particular brand of alcoholism, I needed to be drunk all the time in order to feel comfortable enough to breathe or say hi to you or get up and brush my teeth and all that good stuff. Then it says things like this that I think are important. It says, we thought conditions drove us to drink. When we tried to correct these conditions and found that we couldn't to our satisfaction, our drinking went out of hand and we became alcoholics. It never occurred to us that we needed to change ourselves to meet conditions, whatever they were. Well, I don't know about you guys, but that sounds pretty serious to me. So that sounds like, at least for me, that change for me means I got to dive into Alcoholics Anonymous. I had a sponsee, I'm going to read just a few more things and then I'm going to stop. I had a sponsee yesterday call me, and he said the following. Well, first of all, he doesn't know what he's asking for. He said, I want to be like you. And I thought, you have no fucking idea what you're saying, buddy. You want to be like me, if that's true, and you want to be like other alcoholics and other good AAers, and here's what we do. And you can ask anyone who does this. You've probably never heard this before. We go to lots of meetings, like all the time. We take phone calls when we don't want to. We go speak when we don't want to. We do stuff we don't want to do every day. And that started 12 years ago, and what I found is that the longer I'm sober, the more I have to do. The first year, you smoke some cigarettes, you pick up some chips and stuff and have a good time, that's great. But once you really start going, Alcoholics Anonymous demands more of you. So be careful when you ask somebody, anyone, you say, hey, I want to be like, if you want to be like them, then ask them what they do. Ask them what they do and do what they do, and you'll get what they got. That's how it works around here. There's nothing magic about anything I do, I can assure you. I go to meetings regularly. I do anything Alcoholics Anonymous asks me to do. I study and read our literature. I pray profusely throughout the day. I had a business meeting today that I didn't want to go to because one of the guys, I just can't stand him. I mean, it's not that I can't stand him, I just can't stand him. So I didn't want to go to this meeting, you know what I mean? I'm telling you, I knew I was going to blow a gasket. I knew it. And I just asked God to listen, it says it in the 4-step. I said, God, please grant me the patience and tolerance and love that I would cheerfully grant a sick friend Guess what? I didn't get mad at the guy the whole hour. It was amazing. Usually I can't take this guy for like 2 minutes the minute he opens his mouth. You know what I mean? So I'm just telling you that this stuff works. But I don't just slide around and no. I gotta put in work every day. All the time. Every good AAer does. It doesn't matter how far down the road you are. I've seen guys with 25 years go out and drink and die. You gotta stay honest and humble. And stay doing the work, whatever that work is, whatever's laid out before me to do on a daily basis. Right? Because all I really have is a daily reprieve contingent upon the maintenance of my spiritual condition. All I really have is a day at a time relief from this thing based on what I'm doing that day. I don't get to live on yesterday's recovery. I don't get to say, well, you know, I did a 2-step series this week and put that in some bank or something and then kick back. It doesn't work that way around here. And by the way, there's no awards for like best AA or either, or best speaker of the year. This is not the, you know, it's not the Rotary Club. It's not the American Psychological Association where you guys are all going to congratulate me and give me a Harvard pen or some shit like that. This is Alcoholics Anonymous. The last house on the block is what this is. And I only come up here to give my testimony so that I too can stay sober, but most of the time I'm sitting out there where you guys are and other people are doing what I'm doing. And by the way, if you hang around long enough, you'll be doing this too. You will. They'll ask you, hey, will you come up here and talk to us about your experience with the steps? It's just my turn. That's all. All right, one more thing I want to read, and then I'm going to shut up. It says, you know, there's an old saying in the Bible that says, pride comes before the fall. All right. So it says, for pride leading to self-justification, always spurred by the consciousness and unconscious fears, is the basic breeder of most human difficulties, the chief block to true progress. Pride lures us into making demands on ourselves and others which cannot possibly be met without perverting or misusing our God-given instincts. When these satisfactions of our instincts for sex, security, and society become the sole object of our lives, then pride steps in and justifies the excesses. All of these failings generate fear, a soul sickness of its own. Then fear turns and generates more character defects. I want to leave you with a little thing. I know I'm supposed to shut up, and I'm going to. I just want to read one last thing, because I really want to get into why we do all this stuff. You're going to have to bear with me. It's on my phone, and hopefully I can see it. 'Twas battered and scarred, and the auctioneer thought it scarcely worth his while to waste so much time on the old violin, but he held it up with a smile. What I'm bidding, good folk, he cried, who'll start the bidding for me? $1, $1, then $2, only $2, $2, who'll make it $3? $3 going once, $3 going twice, something here for $3, but no, from the back of the room far, a gray-haired man came forward and picked up the bow. You're gonna have to forgive me, I can't see so well. Then wiping the dust from the old violin and tightening up the loose strings, he played a melody, pure and sweet as the angels sing. The music's, God, that was my boss. The music ceased, and the auctioneer, with a voice that was quiet and low, said, what I'm bidding, O violin, and held it up with the bow. $1,000, who'll make it $2, 2,000, who'll make it $3, 3,000, come on, Mark. 3,000 once, 3,000 twice, going gone, said he. The people cheered, but some of them cried, we do not quite understand. What changed its worth? Swift came the reply, the touch of the master's hand. And many a man with a life out of tune, battered and scarred with sin, its auctioneer cheap to the thoughtless crowd, much like the old violin. A mess of pottage, a glass of wine, a game, he travels on. He's going once, going twice, he's going, almost gone. But the master comes, and the foolish crowd can never quite understand the worth of a soul and the change that is wrought by the touch of the master's hand, and that's why we do step forward. Thanks a lot. I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Robert, so much. We have about 5 minutes. Does anyone need to share tonight? Want to share? Anyone have anything on their heart that they need to discuss with another person or with the group? Anyone have any experience they want to share about step 4? Vanessa, come up here. No?
Yeah,
Okay.
you go, Vanessa. Come on.
I mean, that way, the Zoom and the Facebook Live people feel like they're with us.
They can't see or hear you.
That's the only reason, not to like put you on the spot. I promise. Is this working? I don't think so.
Turn it off.
Hello? No, I feel like that's just my voice, no?
Hi, my name's Vanessa, and I'm an alcoholic,
Hey, Vanessa.
drug addict, and a believer in Christ. And I will say that step 4 took me, I don't know, a year and a half to, I think actually I was definitely in my second year. I went through a few sponsors. 1, 2, and 3, I did 4 times, and each time was more thorough. And I finally convinced my sponsor to sponsor me. I had to chase her and chase her. She finally said, okay. And step 4 took me about 3.5 months of writing. I did a lot of writing, had a lot of years. And step 5, sitting with my sponsor and sharing it. And then of course, sharing it with God on my knees. It's very, very free. Very, especially sharing with my sponsor, you know, discussing it. And it's very revealing and eye-opening when you actually write things down and then speak to other people about it. And if it wasn't for that, I probably still wouldn't be here. I've gone through breast cancer twice since I came into AA. I've lost my father and my brother about 6 weeks apart. And thank God for the fellowship and the Lord, I'm still sober today. And I will share that I've been struggling. I always worked my program. I was at meetings almost every night. And my son keeps relapsing. And I'm very scared because people are dying. And my son came back from a several month relapse, really sick, and then COVID happened. So his system is very susceptible to getting COVID because of his immune system. And you know, so I felt like I had to be there because he needed to get well from the medication. He needed time, but that didn't keep him from going out. And he had a great sponsor, and he kept Zoom meetings and Bible study, and he still went out. And it is heart-wrenching. And if we were still in meetings, because I do talk to people about it in my fellowship, and I talk to my counselor about it, I should say my therapist, and he tells me, you know, you gotta let him go, you gotta let him go. Bottom line is, everybody has their journey. I've had mine, and he's been very proud of me, and he's one of another reason for me to stay sober. But I have to do it for me, and I do it for me, because I don't want to go making bad decisions. Decision making was very, very bad. So I don't want to keep any more time, but I am so grateful for Rob. He's an inspiration to keep reading, to keep coming back, and I'm thankful for my home groups, and I'm thankful for JC's to continue with live Facebook and Zoom, the Zoom meetings and the Bible studies. I'm very grateful. And now JC's is online on YouTube. Woohoo! Thank you.
Thank you.
And I've asked Norm to do the chips.
Norm! Woo! Do it, Norm.
Thanks, Ashley.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Robert. I'm an alcoholic. My name's Norm.
Norm!
It's good to be here. It's good to be in a room. I'm not as good a Zoomer as I am in person. I'm really glad to be here. We have a chip system in AA. It all starts with the white chip. Is anybody here from day 1 to day 29? Anybody want to find and take up a new way of life that will save your life if you get in? Anybody on Facebook? After 30 days, you've earned a green chip. Anybody here or online good for green chip? Keep coming back. After 60 days, you've earned a blue chip. Anybody here or online earn a blue chip for 60 days? Keep coming back. 90 days, you're entitled to a red chip. Any takers for red chip? 6 months, you've earned a pink chip. Any takers for a pink chip? 9 months, yellow chip. Congrats, Joseph.
We're gonna Amazon it.
Yellow chip, like a bunch of bananas.
You're in.
Yeah, if
You're in or you're
like a
out.
bunch of bananas, the one that gets away from the bunch usually gets peeled. After 1 year and every month full out, you get to pick up a medallion. You get to come up here and tell us how you've done it, how this program, the steps with the help of God and your sponsor, has given you a new life. Thanks for letting me serve.
All right.
Thank you, Norm.
And I've asked Julia to close it out by reading a vision for you.
Julia!
Yay. I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name is Julia.
Julia!
Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order, but obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and for countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
Good job.
Thank you everyone for your service tonight. Thank you for your shares. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Robert. I know you do it for you, but I really enjoy it, especially and our books the program's the bomb. I love it. I love hearing about it. So we're gonna close with the Lord's Prayer. Jerry, will you take us out?
Absolutely. Who woke us up this morning?
Our
Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread,
and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Say.
See you guys next week.